I remember the exact moment everything cracked, though at the time, it felt like nothing more than a passing glance. A question that lingered just a second too long. It wasn't my wife's voice that haunted me that day in court. It was the silence after. The kind of silence that makes you realize you've been standing on something broken for years, and only now it's finally giving way. I never thought my life would end up inside a courtroom. Not like that. Not with her sitting across from me, arms folded, eyes cold, like I was just another stranger she had to tolerate. This was the same woman who used to fall asleep on my chest after long days. The same woman who once whispered, "We'll build everything together." Her name is Sana, and for 8 years she was my entire world. We didn't start with much. In fact, when we got married, I had just a small rented apartment and a second-hand car that stalled more often than it ran. Sana used to laugh about it, said it gave the car personality. I believed her laughter was love. Back then, I was working 2 jobs, one during the day at a small logistics office, and another at night managing inventory for a warehouse. I barely slept. Some nights I'd come home at 3 a.m., sit on the edge of the bed and just watch her sleep. That peaceful look on her face, it made everything feel worth it. And she knew that. Or at least I thought she did. We used to talk about the future, like it was something we could shape with our bare hands. A bigger house, maybe kids, a small business of our own one day. Sana had dreams, beautiful ones. She wanted a boutique, something elegant, something hers. I supported that dream like it was my own. Every extra rupee I earned, I saved. Every opportunity I chased. And slowly, things started to change. After 3 years, I left my second job and took a risk. I partnered with an old friend, Imran, to start a small distribution company. It wasn't easy. There were months we barely broke even. Times when I questioned everything. But Sana, she stood by me, or at least she appeared to. She would sit across from me at our tiny dining table, going through numbers, offering ideas, encouraging me when I felt like giving up. "You're building something real," she'd say. "Don't stop now." And I didn't. 5 years in, things finally took off. We landed a major contract, then another. Within a year, we moved into a new house, nothing extravagant, but ours. I bought her the boutique space she had always dreamed of. I still remember the way her eyes lit up when she saw it for the first time. She hugged me so tightly. I thought my ribs would crack. "I knew you'd do it," she whispered. Looking back now, I wonder if she meant something else entirely. Success changes people. That's what everyone says. But no one tells you how quietly it happens. At first, it was small things. Sana started spending more time at the boutique, which made sense. It was her business, her passion. I was proud of her. I wanted her to succeed just as much as I had. But then, she stopped asking about my day, stopped sitting with me at dinner, stopped waiting up for me at night. I told myself it was normal. We were both busy. Life was moving fast. Still, there were moments, little flashes that didn't sit right, like the way she'd quickly lock her phone when I walked into the room, or how her tone changed when she mentioned Imran, just slightly softer, more careful. At first I dismissed it. Imran had been my friend for years. He was practically family. I trusted him. I trusted both of them. That's what makes this harder to say out loud. There was one night I remember clearly. I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Sana's car was outside, but she wasn't in the living room or kitchen. I found her in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked startled. Not guilty. Not exactly. Just caught off guard. "Oh, you're home early," she said, forcing a smile. Something about that moment stayed with me. Not because of what I saw, but because of what I felt. A shift. A crack. Like something invisible had moved between us, and neither of us wanted to acknowledge it. By the 7th year, we barely spoke unless it was necessary. The boutique was doing well. The business was thriving. From the outside, we looked like a success story. Inside, it felt like living with a stranger, and yet I held on, because I believed in history, in the years we had built together, in the version of her I still carried in my mind. I thought maybe we were just going through a phase, that we'd find our way back. I was wrong. The word divorce didn't come from me. It came from her. Calm, direct, almost rehearsed. "I don't think this is working anymore," she said one evening, not even looking up from her phone. No argument, no emotion, just a conclusion. I remember sitting there staring at her, waiting for something more, an explanation, a reason, anything. But she just stood up and walked away. And just like that, 8 years of my life were reduced to a single sentence. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Not physically. Emotionally, like every word spoken there carried weight, and none of it belonged to love anymore. I sat on one side, my hands clasped tightly together, trying to stay composed. Sana sat on the other, beside her attorney, looking confident, detached. Like she had already moved on. Her lawyer did most of the talking. Detailed, sharp, calculated. Then came the moment I wasn't prepared for. Sana spoke, her voice steady, clear. He built nothing, she said. Just like that. 8 years. Gone. Reduced to nothing. I felt something inside me collapse, but I didn't react. I couldn't. Not there. Not in front of everyone. But then, the judge leaned forward slightly. And for the first time since the hearing began, he looked directly at her attorney. There was a pause. A long one. And then he asked a single question. A question that made the entire room shift. Even Sana's expression changed. And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, I realized something wasn't right. Not just with my marriage, but with everything I thought I knew. And that's when the real story began. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The entire courtroom had already gone still. The kind of stillness that makes every breath feel too loud, every heartbeat too noticeable. He looked at Sana's attorney and asked calmly, "Can you clarify what you mean by he built nothing? Considering the financial records submitted?" That was it. One question, but it hit like a crack of thunder. For the first time since the hearing began, her attorney hesitated. It was subtle, just a slight pause, a flicker in his expression, but I saw it. And more importantly, so did the judge. Sana shifted in her seat. Not dramatically, not enough for anyone who didn't know her to notice. But I knew her. I knew the way her fingers tightened slightly when she was nervous, the way her posture changed when she felt exposed. And in that moment, she wasn't as composed as she wanted everyone to believe. The judge turned a page in the file in front of him. "These documents show that the business," he continued, "was registered solely under his name for the first 4 years, and the expansion capital came from his personal accounts. Is that correct?" Her attorney cleared his throat. "Your Honor, while that may be true, the growth of the business was a joint effort. My client—" "I didn't ask about effort," the judge interrupted gently. "I asked about ownership." Silence. Heavy, unforgiving silence. "Yes," the attorney finally admitted. "That is correct." I felt something shift inside me, not relief, not victory, just clarity. Because for the first time, the narrative that had been building against me started to unravel. Sana spoke again, this time with less certainty. "I supported him," she said. "I was there from the beginning. I helped him build everything. And for a second, I almost believed her. Not because it was true in the way she meant it, but because I remembered those nights at the small table. The conversations, the shared dreams. But support and ownership are not the same thing." The judge nodded, acknowledging her words. "I don't doubt that," he said. "But support does not equate to sole entitlement." Her jaw tightened. That was new. Sana didn't like losing control. Then something unexpected happened. My lawyer, who had been mostly quiet until now, leaned forward. "Your Honor," he said, "if I may, there's an additional detail that may provide further context." The judge gestured for him to continue. My lawyer slid a document across. I hadn't seen that paper before, not in detail, but I recognized the date. And suddenly, a memory surfaced, one I hadn't fully understood at the time. It was about a year before the divorce. Sana had approached me one evening, unusually warm, unusually attentive. She made dinner, sat close to me, asked about the business in a way she hadn't in months. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe we're finding our way back. Then she brought up some paperwork. "Just routine stuff," she said casually. "For the boutique. Some financial restructuring." I didn't think twice. I trusted her. I signed where she pointed. Didn't read every line. Didn't question it. Because that's what trust looks like when you believe in someone. Back in the courtroom, my lawyer spoke carefully. "This document," he said, "was signed by my client under the understanding that it pertained to a separate business entity, her boutique. However, It includes clauses that attempt to transfer partial rights of his primary company. The room shifted again. I felt it this time, a ripple of quiet tension moving through the air. The judge adjusted his glasses, reading the document more closely. Sana's face changed, not dramatically, but enough. The confidence was gone, replaced by something else, something closer to urgency. "That's a misrepresentation," her attorney said quickly. "My client believed—" "Did your client explain these clauses clearly at the time of signing?" The judge asked, his tone still calm but sharper now. No answer. Not immediately. And in that silence, everything became louder. The past, the late nights, the distance, the moments that didn't make sense. They all started connecting. I turned my head slightly and looked at Sana. Really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I didn't recognize the person sitting there, not because she had changed overnight, but because I was finally seeing her without the filter of who I believed she was. "I think," the judge said after a moment, "this matter requires a more detailed examination." He closed the file in front of him. "This court will not proceed on assumptions or incomplete disclosures." Another pause. Then he added, "And I strongly advise both parties to review all submitted documents carefully before the next hearing." The session was adjourned shortly after. People began to move. Papers shuffled. Voices returned. But I stayed seated for a moment longer, because something inside me had finally settled. Not healed, not resolved, but settled. The confusion was gone, replaced by something quieter, something clearer. As I stood up, I felt a presence beside me. It was Sana. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she finally said softly, "You didn't have to make this difficult." I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger, just understanding. "No," I replied. "I didn't." A pause. Then I added, "But you didn't have to make it dishonest." She didn't respond, didn't argue, didn't defend herself. She just turned and walked away. And as I watched her leave, I realized something I wish I had understood years ago. Some people don't betray you in a single moment. They do it slowly, quietly, in ways that look like love, until the truth finally speaks. And when it does, it only takes one question to change.